Hi, and welcome back. This is Dave Emmons Show, and it's a WODY radio, and it's Odyssey Radio.live. And I got a special guest today. All my guests are special, but Tom's been with me a couple of different times. This is the first time I've had him on video and seeing some of his paperwork, and which is fantastic. Uh, and we're going to have this segment. We got another hour to go after this one, so we're going to combine all the segments. But WDY Radio will play the audio portion, and I will play this video portion on my social media if they'll take it. It's let's see what happens there. So Dave Emmons and Tom Althouse. Tom, continue, buddy.
Well, I wanted to share too. Thanks for having me on, first of all, Dave. This means a lot because right now it is a full press war going. It is like we're at the end zone. It's a full press right now. So you're going to see a lot of people coming forward, revealing a lot of people who were actually there all along to try to say, nothing to see here, evil man, whatever. But we've got the evidence. We're not stupid. And the Cabal, actually insiders in the Cabal, even some of their correspondents are now saying, yeah, if Tom was smart enough to write the Matrix story, and we have the copyright and everything and beat them to the punch. It wasn't switched out. We got it. Preceding Matrix, that we're smart enough to follow the trail and reveal the actual things going on behind the scenes. So what you have, too, is we just talked about the Wachowskis, putting all the information in my high school, everything else, right? And we talked about them saying every cell, I'm going to read it one more time. This is his testimony. This is sworn testimony from Larry Wachowski, who claims he created the Matrix. My brother Andy and I are involved in every single decision regarding all of the Matrix trilogy projects, including Matrix 3. Literally not one single cell, in quotes, cell of what will become a Matrix trilogy, in quotes, movie is made, edited, created, or exists without my input. Every decision is a co-decision with my brother Andy. Now, keep in mind what he's saying. No doubt that everything's his, right? Everything's his inputs. Nice bragging. Right. Well, here's the only testimony we got when they were throwing our case because they wanted to cover. They were very concerned about those entries. So what do? They don't think we'll come back on a fraud case. Yes, we will. Sophia Stewart's job is to call me and say, you can't do the fraud case, rule of repression. No, we can do the fraud case, and we will after the documentary. And so here's what they say in their testimony. Now, keep in mind, here's what Larry swore testimony, another sworn testimony from Larry. It says here that they stuck in Thomas A. Anderson, but the rest of the information on the data sheet, which you just saw with my high school, birthday, everything else, the rest of the information on the data sheet came from the production, design, and art departments for the films, not for me or Andy. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Two sworn testimonies. One says every cell. Let me read that one more time from this one. Just one more time. I want to make sure this is hit home. Literally not one single cell of what will become a Matrix trilogy movie is made, edited, created, or exists without my input. Every decision is a co-decision with my brother Andy. All right. Well, that sounds like good sworn testimony, Larry. Oh, Larry has more to say. The rest of the information on the data sheet came from the production, design, and art departments for the film, not for me or Andy. Does that conflict? Two sworn statements that conflict. So my high school, my birthday, my dad's name, thing in the column, my high school, Central West High, came from whom? Larry says now it's the art department head and the production design. Okay, production manager. Well, the production manager what's his name? Owen Patterson. He's on the graphic. And the art director is Michelle McGahee. Wait, she's on the graphic too. Neo's mom. And listed as Neo's mom on the graphic as a joke. And Owen Patterson's listed as the other school. So Larry, here's my question for Larry in front of public. Why did you're saying that the information's there, but it's not your fault it's there, that it's your production manager that's in the graphic and your art director that's in the graphic. So you're not negating it, you're blaming them, but not negating that it's my stuff in there. You're blaming them. Right. My question is, are you ready to go to court, Larry? You ready to go to court, Andy? Andy's afraid. Andy actually got off a Matrix 4 project because he doesn't want to be involved anymore. He thinks Larry's going too far. Yeah, Larry's going too far. They cashed in with Matrix 4 to try to make as much money as they can before we come forward now with the documentary.
Tom, did you have a hearing or whatever about a year or so ago? Was there a hearing on this case?
This case right now, mine?
Right.
No, we haven't touched it. We're leaving it alone. They've pushed for us to do it because they want to control the outcome in their courts. Mm-hmm. So we're waiting till the documentary's done, Dave, as I was advised. And then we're going for criminal charges on Linda Burrow, Tony Rankin, the rest of the group that got involved in this, that threw the case, like the art of war, they claim. And then we'll be going after Joel Silver. We'll be going after Disney, Michael Eisner, Mike Lang of Disney, Harvey Weinstein probably, Larry and Andy Wachowski. And now, interesting about Joel Silver is that they kept saying Joel Silver had nothing to do with the case. That had nothing to do with Matrix. He's a producer. And what's very interesting about it is,
I want to remind the people that Tom Althouse is a screenplay writer involved in Hollywood, and he got burnt by Hollywood, and this is what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And what's really interesting is you've got this testimony going on here. Remember I said, Joel Silver, is there any question that Joel Silver from Warner Brothers is an owner of the Matrix franchise? He's in the credits as executive producer and everything. He's right there. But here's what Tony Rankin does during the during my deposition. No depositions of them, no depositions or discovery at all, since they controlled a fraud case. But here's the questions. I want to just throw this to you. How he said I was grandiose delusions to think that Joel Silver was involved in Matrix. What? And that I was delusional and crazy to suggest that Joel Silver had anything to do with the Matrix. Look at the Matrix and see if Joel Silver has something to do with it. That's how a Planet attorney, Tony Rankin, works with his classmate Linda Burrows of Warner Brothers to make sure his defendants get away with whatever they want. After he already threw the case with, what was it? Just one more time. What did he have? Ineligible to practice law, suspended license, Tony Rankin. Let's just make sure we take this home. Next page means you're not allowed to practice in California courts. You're not allowed, buddy. You're not allowed, Tony. Not allowed. So you threw our case by running out the clock on statutes, everything, and then you went forward and followed it pro per. Not even as our attorney. And then it was Linda Burrow of Warner Brothers that reinstated his license. The Warner Brothers attorney reinstated his license and stipulated to go forward after he already threw the case because the case was already lost. And here's what it says in the deposition to me. Question from Linda Burrows. And it is your belief that whatever occurred between Mr. Silver and Warner Brothers has something to do with your lawsuit? Well, he's the producer. He's the one that made it.
Right.
And then I start to answer, I can't. Mr. Tony Rankin does this. Now, think of him as your attorney supposed to represent you. Objection. Calls for speculation, as belief is not relevant. He's listed as a producer. Joel Silver's listed as producer. I think we can say he has something to do with the Matrix. Mm-hmm. And this is Burrow, the classmate of Rankin, goes, you can answer. And then Rankin mocks me in front of the other attorney. He's supposed to be my attorney. If you can. It's in audio. You hear him go, if you can. And then I'll go, I'll have to honor my attorney. I'm totally confused. And then Burrow says, no, he didn't instruct you not to answer. And then Rankin goes, well, I'll instruct you to answer to the extent that it doesn't call for rank speculation, which I don't think is the proper subject for testimony. He doesn't, my own attorney doesn't want me talking about Joel Silver at all because he's paid not to have me talk about Joel Silver at all. And is trying to tell me that Joel Silver is not a producer on The Matrix. That's how scummy Tony Rankin is on Maui, that he sold out, bought out completely to shut this down. And anybody says like, oh yeah, he lost his case, take a look at the facts. Take a look at what happened, and we'll put it in the documentary.
The corruption sounds like it runs so deep. And a lot of people across this country think, well, that's not going to happen to me. Well, there's things going on right now that's affecting all of us. I mean, we're talking about foreign policy blunders. We're talking about inflation, gas prices. This is all a plan, like a new world order. And I think, Tom, you were talking that there's a lot of different secretive groups that are around Hollywood, and we know that too. Yeah. And we mentioned Illuminati during the break and how they're commercialized on the internet in recruiting people.
Right.
Yeah, but what groups are involved in this corruption in Hollywood and with you and affects everybody across the country?
Oh, they all came together over this work. The Immortals was so hot. In fact, Bonaventura says, here's the thing. I have my evidence. I have everything for the documentary team. They're so excited. Here's Bonaventura, and he claims he's shepherded and discovered and shepherded the Matrix story and one of the few that understands it. Yeah, because he's the one I pitched it to. He's the one I was given to pitch it to him after he had my screenplay. And when you follow the trail further, Here's something about Tony Rankin, one more. I want to show you how they threw the case. When anybody hears Tom Althouse lost his case, keep these things in mind. Here's Tony Rankin, his own email. And I'm asking if we can do depositions, right? And here's his answer. I will not be doing I will not be doing face-to-face depositions with any of the defendants. If you want to do face-to-face depos, then do them yourself. I will only arrange telephone depositions. And he said, soft questions only for only an hour. We don't see them. They're not on camera. They're with their attorneys in their studios. They don't have to travel. And all they do is they'll answer only questions from Tony Rankin. I'm not allowed to say anything, have any questions input. And Tony Rankin said he'd only do soft questions if we did this. And it'd just be about, what were their ideas and what they think of it.
Right. Who's controlling all these people?
Who's controlling?
Yeah.
This is FBI, CIA with Hollywood, because they learned that they could make money off the films better than poppy fields and everything else. What they're doing is they learned the ones that are supposed to protect the people are the best ones to exploit those people they're supposed to protect.
So instead of taking the poor man's tax money, these alphabet groups, they're actually going into something and trying to make money off of certain Hollywood projects.
Here's what a contact from the Pentagon told me. This is the viewpoint. The viewpoint of the Pentagon and these FBI and CIA and Secret Service is this. You are considered, Dave, as a writer, you're an asset. You're an asset. Therefore, if they need to protect people in this country, they can draw from an asset. They say it very cleanly. They can draw from an asset, take your work if it protects many. So if they take and profit off your work, they're doing it to help national security and help other people in this country. See? If you make a fuss, then you're harming this country. You're putting this country at jeopardy. Therefore, you could be, quote, destroyed. You're an asset. Your work belongs to the state. Anything your mind creates belongs to the state. The state comes first, and they can profit off anything you have. That's why they say I'm an asset, a star player on the bench. So anybody in this country with a social security number is owned by the state. Anything you create can be used for them. It's like military needing something from your house to win a war. They come in, take it, and it's okay because they're fighting a war. And you're part of that citizenry. So they can take anything you want and use it.
National security purposes, right.
So under that banner. So anything we have is theirs. And they allow us to live in this country. They allow us to be a citizen. We should be grateful and give up whatever we have, even our children.
Now, do you think this infiltration has went worldwide because of the New World Order? All this, it's going on. Even our policies today that are going down the drain. I mean, it's costing so much to live, and only the elite are happy with all these big changes.
Yeah, that's right. What's going on right now is you're going to see people more and more, they call it disappearing. No, they're set up in resorts. And what's going on is they're set up in resorts to wait for the reset. And the reset's supposed to come soon. And what happens is, I know the full plan. What happens is we're supposed to have a war in America where Chinese soldiers are actually employed. They've been training with our guys to do house-to-house searches and everything else. They're going to reduce the size of the American population. Only elite are going to be allowed to continue on. They'll be safely trucked off or flown off so they can be safe during this cleansing period. They call it a cleanse final solution. So they're going to do this. They'll put people into rail cars, into certain holding areas, especially stadiums. It's actually in the work. Everything in here it's right in here. You're going to see this too. Food shortages.
Right.
Here's about food traders. Yeah, the food shortages are going to shut down. You can be told to go to the stadiums with your children. And if you go to the stadiums at the height of this turnover, final solution, then you'll be told at the stadiums that they're having trouble trucking food in and getting food in. Just sit tight. But we're going to provide transportation. I know the whole plan. Transportation will be provided, buses, trains for your children. So we'll get them out and you'll follow. Remember the train station scene I showed you?
Right.
Train station scene?
Right.
Telling you the train station scene is the plan, part of the plan. If you go to the stadiums, anybody out there, if you're called during the crisis time, and it won't be foreign soil operatives, it'll be our own guys. FBI, CIA, Secret Service is going to do this with the Pentagon. They're going to do it because they feel that there's too much population, it's unruly, and they just want the best to move forward. They whisper through all these films, this theme of taking the best, the cream of the crop, and they don't know what to do with me right now. Apparently, I'm considered, since I have my two sons killed and last surviving son, I'm still considered an asset because they're still fans of the work. They always say that when they come to me. They're fans of the work, but they have to do their job. So
Well,
I'm supposed to be set aside too.
the author or screenplay writer is property to, I mean, some kind of an asset. You call it.
Yeah, supposed to be an asset. Yeah.
And the elites right now, you see these political figures today. I don't, you mentioned that. Well, why not mention names like Biden and Kamala and Pelosi? They're all jockeying for this elite status.
Yes, they are part of it.
Yeah, they want to let the people that's in charge, and who is in charge of this.
What you're watching, Dave, you're watching professional wrestling. Anytime Pelosi or whatever goes after Bill Gates or whatever, they're all just professional wrestlers doing tag team to snow the public, to keep them entertained, to distract them from the real. They're all having brandy and cigars together.
Right.
They're not against each other. The Republicans are not against the Democrats. They're all one party, one system, the elite system, and it's a dog and pony show everybody's watching.
And that's why when they go in with about $50,000 in the bank account, in about 4 years, they have about 4 or 5 million.
Absolutely.
Now, how do they do that?
They create money out of air. You got a Federal Reserve System that creates money out of air. They're licensed. They're not even federal. They create money when they want to. I know it's not. A lot of people know this already. That's fine. But Hollywood does the same thing. Hollywood's allowed to write black credit cards. They're allowed to have these black credit cards, whatever. That is unlimited pull. Some of these people get unlimited money. And my sister's part of this weird system now, where she's got so many rewards because who is she with? This guy named Fitzpatrick, who is lifelong FBI from Wilshire Boulevard in Hollywood, who's also just happens to be my sister's biggest thing with Congressman from Pennsylvania, where my sister is, giving her all kinds of positions. Floor of Congress, her picture was held up as a national treasure at floor of Congress by this congressman who's also a lifelong FBI. Dave, we know you can't be legislative and judicial branches at the same time. Those are pillars the founding fathers put in place to protect the society with checks and balances. But right now we've got an FBI operative who's lifelong, Brian Fitzpatrick, who's also a congressman. That's conflicting. Who's also given all these positions, ways and means, you name it, who has my sister in his pocket, and she's out to destroy her brother. Disney's not stupid. Warner Bros. Not stupid. They know what the play is supposed to be. I'm to be eliminated under a 302. And who echoes it through the graphics? Steven Spielberg.
Okay, what happens when all chaos? I know right now they're attacking our Supreme Court judges. I've never seen this before in my life. These elites are going after them, threatening them, and nobody's doing a thing about it.
You know why they're threatening them? Do you know why they're doing it?
They're trying to get
because they're in a position. They're in a position that naturally lends itself to them exercising free will and opinion.
Mm-hmm.
See, so that means they can be a threat. They're not a predictable factor. There's something that can go freelance. There's something that can go wild card. So they don't want positions where people are free to do what they want outside the plan. Everybody stick to the plan. That's what the elite does. What was I told when I was approached by, I told you, Lauren Holmberg on Maui, the operative, makes no bones about it, exports, imports. He said to me, Tom, you're one of the elite now. We're going to get things that are going to blow your mind. There was a caveat thrown in, Dave. He said, don't try to make a difference. See, if Tom behaves himself and doesn't tell the public, and they think I'm foolish for telling the public. Well, that's why I amended my process now. Now I'm talking to the people that are smart, educated, and have critical thinking. If you're not, I'm not talking to you. I'm not wasting my breath and time. My last son's his life is at stake. I'm not going to deal with mockers and people that don't figure it out. I'm dealing with the best people that can solve the problem and give us answers to make a better world. That's what I got to concentrate on now. I'm not here to educate the masses of the public. I'm here to deal with those that have the brains and the smarts. And that's why they're going to send people towards me that are poised as that, pretending to be that are supposed to shoot me down. But the evidence is irrefutable.
Well, that's what I try to do, Tom, in my books, Disclosure and then The Senseless Wars, using poor people. I can tell you the story what happened to me when I, starting off in Senseless Wars. After high school, they told my brother and I that we're going to be drafted. And I said, how do you know? The high school did this. They said, well, we've already turned you into the county, recruiting board. I said, what? They said, yeah, because you're too poor to go to college, so you're going to go to the military. So that's what happens. Yes. You ever heard that song CCR, Creedence Clearwater, I'm no senator's son? Yeah, that's it. But when you're poor, that's what happens to you. You're cannon fodder.
See, that's it.
Yeah.
You're expendable because the elite do not think you merit elite status. What does Pat Robertson say? the evangelist, oh, not the evangelist, the guy who markets God for profit. What he says is this. He says, if you're successful, God has blessed you. If you're not successful, you basically belong to the devil.
Really?
Yeah, he has what he calls the law of reciprocity. God help us.
Really?
Reciprocity. Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, he says, yeah, I got the clip. He talks about the law of reciprocity. And he claims that you can use God. You can force God to do what you want because he's bound by his own laws of reciprocity. So if you give to God, give to him, not other ministries, give to him, then God will give it. He does this theatrics of going, and God will give it back to you, pressed down and overpouring 10 times.
You had some dealings with Pat Robertson.
I was supposed to be his number one boy. I'm supposed to be a number one man. I'm supposed to be the face of Christian Coalition.
And what were they involved in?
Everything from sex trades to sex rings to drug lords in Colombia. There actually was footage they used for Operation Blessing for their fundraisers, Robertson's fundraisers. Don't get me started. It would get me started. They filmed hands receiving the medicines off the trucks in Colombia, South America. Why? It's the drug lords receiving the medications. And then what does Robertson say? It's a miracle. We're the only ones allowed in Colombia. We're the only religious organization allowed in Colombia. Why? Because you made a frickin' deal with the drug lords. That's why. So you can have filmed your Operation Morphine and supplies off Operation Trucks into the hands of the drug lords. And this was made known by a pastor giving testimony that this would happened in order for Robertson to make his deals. He's got blood diamond mines. He's got oil companies. You name it, he's got it. And he doesn't care a ball about anybody. And so what he's done is these Operation Blessings are supposed to give his PR fundraisers. And what happens at fundraisers? At fundraisers, the volunteers are given bins. Bins are wheeled in, right? Bins wheeled in. And they're told these instructions, Dave. When you get the prayer request letters, rip them open, throw the letters and the requests in this bin, and throw the checks and the money in this bin.
How about the other mega church preachers? Are they involved in?
Not for them at all. Not for them at all. No, that is Costco, not to mock Costco. Costco churches. They are simply following basically Robertson's thing. The bigger, the better, the more power you show. That's the elite stream of the future, is Costco churches. They don't want these small things where people might, again, like the Supreme Court justices, they might start to think for themselves if they're hard to control in small little circuits with cookies and milk. They want to get everybody in farms like they do with mass cows.
Right. Let's get off Earth right now for just a bit. You always hear about these reptilian shapeshifters running this country. They represent the evil part. They're in banks. They're in politicians. They're kind of like running things in a I guess underground way. Have you heard anything about that? Is that something?
I've heard a lot coming my way. I don't negate anything. That's my policy, is not to negate anything. You know, I'll tell you what I know, what I understand, and what's based in things in my personal experience. But as far as reptilian, what I do know about reptilian is that it's being taught that we all have reptilian minds, right? That it goes to our core. And they use that word in their psych talk too, that it's the reptilian minds is the core of who we are. That is not true. Actually, the core of who we are is very compassionate based. We're born children are actually born to bond and to connect. We're not born to steal, take, murder. That's not how we're born. And what's interesting is, as far as the reptilian idea, the Hollywood groups and the FBI and everything, they say it's all about power. Now, is there extraterrestrials? Sure, absolutely. I mean, look how big space is. I mean, they do a good argument. Even in astrophysicists do it. Sure. You've got films do it pretty well with like First Contact, things like this. Of course, that we are carbon-based life beings.
It's just like your screenplay, Tom. You wrote about what's going to happen in the future with this Matrix.
Yeah, that's right.
The Immortals.
Right.
Yeah. So everything that you see in the movies, they say happens, or it's going to happen.
It is art imitating life.
Right.
Art imitating life for Hollywood. What's really interesting, Dave, is something you just raised for me, is that this was written as you see it. This was written as a screenplay.
Yeah.
Tell me how many Hollywood films write a screenplay. They go off a book. They go off a proven work. That's why there's no way the Wachowskis making it up on set, just going as they go, they claim now. No, they have to have something to go off of. That's why there was a 20-foot rule, that if you're in 20 feet of them and you see this work in hand, the Immortals, then you are going to be fired. They just came out with Terminal List, like we said, on Amazon Prime.
Right.
Terminal List. The name of the main character. I want anybody to check this out, please.
There's the Eternals too that's out, and I've been wanting to see that movie.
Isn't that weird? The Immortals, the Eternals. Anyway, so yeah, if that's the name of it, then that would line up for me. But what's interesting is you've got this situation here. Jim Reese is the main character in Terminal List, now being advertised everywhere. Why is that? That is a network through Hollywood signaling something, that this author is now on the keep list. Because wait, I got to see if I can line this up here.
Okay, now the Terminal List is a story about a guy who he's got a hit list.
Yeah, but
he takes out people.
Look at the name.
Steve Davis.
Oh, Jim Reese.
Okay.
Jim Reese. Jim Reese. Jim Reese is Neo. Jim Reese is modeled after me. Jim Reese is Thomas A. Anderson. Jim Reese. That's what Keanu Reeves read on set when he was within 20 feet of the Wachowskis, being given direction on to make it up as he goes along in improv. Jim Reese is what he saw. So now we have Terminal List being advertised everywhere. All of a sudden, with the main character named Jim Reese, same spelling, same everything. And what's interesting is that's a signal to everybody through Hollywood. They can get caught on emails. Think of Clinton's emails. They can get caught on tapes. Think of Nixon's tapes. They can get caught on communiques, letters, you name it. But if they put information through a film, it's considered a safe way of putting a universal message out.
Okay, Tom, we're on another break now.
Sure.
You're listening to the Dave Emmons Show. Tom Althouse is my guest. Some interesting material and stuff. We're also syndicated through WDY Radio. That's OdysseyRadio.live. And that's my buddy Eddie Carson's that runs that network. And we're going to be doing audio through that networking. And I'll put this video on my social media if they'll take it. So we'll be right back. We got 2 more sections to go. That's an hour. Yeah, if they'll take it.
This is great, though, Dave. We are hitting the meat now. We're hitting the real thing.